Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar on protecting your online identity. This webinar is brought to you by CSG's National Leadership Center. We have two great panelists to help you today, and I'm going to turn it over to them. First, we've got Brian Selander. He's a 2011 Toll Fellow and the Chief Strategy Officer for Governor Jack Markell in Delaware. He's got a great background in communications and political strategy, and he's going to help talk to you guys today about policing your online identity and how to respond to online attacks and craft a creative, cohesive online communication strategy. So with that, Brian, if you want to take off, it's all yours.
Great. Well, thanks, everybody. I know how busy you are. I appreciate, first, the Toll Fellows and CSG thinking that I might have something interesting to say, and second, thanks for taking time out of your day to listen. We're in the middle of our legislative session here, and in every one of the offices in the governor's office, we've got a speaker that pipes right in so we can hear every word that goes on. So if you start to hear some screaming in the background, it's a heated debate over, well, I think that we're at the point of the session where everybody brings in every single member of every single Girl Scout troop and Youth Little League to give them pictures and plaudits. So if you hear screaming in the background, then something's gone pretty terribly wrong in Delaware. I don't see the PowerPoint up yet on GoToWebinar.
It should be up.
Okay.
It's on our screens here. Do you have it now?
It says connecting. So I'll tell you a little bit about our background. Governor Jack Markell was elected in January. Got sworn in January 2009. He'd been state treasurer for a few years and had been an early pioneer in the telecommunications industry, getting a chance to start early at a company that he named Nextel. So he's a governor that really gets technology. He really understands early adoption and wanted to make sure that noises like that didn't come over your cell phone. So. All right. As elected officials, I think you're used to being the, whether you like it or not, winding up as the center of attention. That you run hard for election, you run hard for re-election, and both your friends, neighbors, and families get a sense from you that that you're really out there on the front line, that you're really putting yourself out there to serve people. Next slide. When you get into the world of social media, though, and the digital arena, it doesn't matter whether you're a governor or a United States senator, a member of the legislature, or a mayor. It's really easy to get lost in a crowd of people who have their own concerns, their own approaches, and their own issues. Next slide. Hey, am I the only one hearing that in the background?
We can hear it also. We can hear it.
Well, in any crowd, though, you'll find that there are some people that get lost. They're the ones that are standing on the sheets shouting their own cheer. They're the ones trying to start the wave, and the wave doesn't ever really start. They're the ones that the Jumbotron focuses in on, and you see them kind of looking around and looking at their feet, and then they look up and go, oh gosh, you know. And growing up in North Jersey and getting a chance to go to some spring events at various stadiums, you could also see sometimes those folks turn things terribly wrong, and they wind up getting, pelted with batteries or yelled at. So that's not who we want to be in the world of social media. We want to be the ones that start the wave or shape the cheer, that get people focused and get people moving, that connect with others, and in the process change the game. They talk about home field advantage not because they know where the turf is or because they know that the basket is slightly different there than other places. It's called home field advantage because the crowd gets moved and motivated and joins in with them. Next slide. When it comes to social media, it is getting really crowded. Facebook has 845 million monthly users and 483 million daily users. There was if you saw the Joseph Kony a Vote Kony piece that's had 150 million views, and starts off with a video saying there are more people using Facebook now than were alive on Earth 250 years ago. Every second, 1 hour of videos uploaded to YouTube. Some of that's elected officials like you. 4 billion YouTube videos are viewed every day. Most of those are people falling over things and cats playing piano, but a lot of them are about elected officials and legislation. And then Twitter, which electeds are adopting more slowly than others, has 100 million monthly users and 50 million daily users. And this has really turned things on its head. When I worked in the New Jersey legislature in the 90s, my first job in government, there was a clear path to how you got your message out and how you connected with people. You'd put out your press release, or you'd have your event. You'd go to a fair or festival. The media would cover it, and then more people would learn about it. You could see the arrow expands as it goes up because of the number of people that are used to hearing from you. Next slide. But social media has turned all that on its head. Instead of having a clear path, you have your event, you put out your press release, you get heard, and people get read. The way that elected officials are viewed by their constituents now has a lot more to do with thousands of interactions that you're not even part of, that voters and constituents and nonprofit organizations have with each other about you, tweets and posts and links, if you're on Google+, +1s, your blogs, your calls. And all of those pieces come together in a way that's in some ways out of our control to create the message about you. Next slide. Now, in addition to helping the governor with his agenda and the communications team and scheduling, I also help run constituent relations. And one of the big changes between being in government now and when I did it in the 90s and earlier last decade is that every single constituent contact that we have is a chance, both for good and bad, to make news. It used to be that people would call us and we'd write them a letter, and then the letter would get sent out. 3 or 4 days later, they'd decide whether they liked it or not when they got it, call us back. But now, constituent calls the office. If you have staff, then sometimes they handle it. If not, you get a chance to do it yourself. You give a response either via email or letter or on the phone. But right now, that response is immediately available to become viral. Right? Every email and every call that your staff sends out or that you send out on your behalf can instantly be PDF'd, put up on a blog, put up on Twitter, put up on Facebook. And reporters have been tasked with their own obligation by their editors to become social media reporters as well. So last month I had 27, I think, new reporters all immediately friended me on Facebook, like all the same day, on my personal account. And I said, well, what's this about? And they were all tasked by their editors to use Facebook both to find stories and to generate their own links. So reporters now read these tweets and posts and blogs, especially if you mention it by name, and this initial contact then becomes an article, which then generates more constituent contacts. So it could become an avalanche really quickly. We've decided in our office to put somebody really smart, far smarter than I am, in the mix on our social media. She was an intern of mine in 1999, then went on to Princeton and was head of corporate responsibility for all of Asia for APCO, and like, that's the level of person that we have focused on our Twitter and Facebook here in the governor's office. Next slide. Now, while some of this is bad, right, the angry constituent leads to an angry email that leads to a story about people being critical, there are so many ways for this to go right. Nicole Ortiz is Delaware International, and she randomly tweeted the governor. We like to follow lots of people in Delaware so that we feel like they feel like we're listening and we listen to them. And so she just emailed us, tweeted us, and said, hey, Governor, I would really like for you to join me in proclaiming Delaware National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. And these are the sort of things that are really easy to do, right? You put out a proclamation and then you make it real. So we saw Nicole's tweet. The governor tweeted back. Next slide. And we decided to proclaim National Eating Disorder Awareness Week in Delaware, just because she had the suggestion. We hadn't thought of that. She put it up on her blog, which was seen by thousands of people. Next slide. Reporters saw her blog and her tweets. They decided to come in and cover that. The woman in that picture right there is from Channel 6 in Philadelphia, which at one point had more viewers every night than CNN had in the country. That's what the news director told me. And then this is the front page of our big statewide newspaper here. Great story. She told her moving tale about overcoming eating disorders. The governor had a chance to proclaim this for her. And then a funny thing happened. Next slide. What started as a tweet and then became a story in our local paper got picked up by USA Today, and because they wanted to tell human stories about obstacles people have overcome. So this is something we could never have pitched, right? We never would have been able to call up USA Today and say, hey, the governor's doing a proclamation on something. Can you please turn it into a story? But the tweet became the blog, became the event, became the story, became USA Today. Next slide. And where that might have been the end in the past, you do the article and that's it. All of those stories have now become part of our own social media world. We're an earlier adopter of another social media platform called Pinterest, where it's literally like a corkboard where you just put pictures of people up on your board, and anybody can join in to do it. So we then put her up on this, and she had her friends come look at that, and it keeps generating content over and over again. And now if you search for her or for the governor or for eating disorders, there's a chance that instead of finding something bad, you'll find something really positive that we were able to do together all from one tweet. Next. So Krista asked that we take a look at 5 different platforms that may be most interesting to you. We're always available by email to help. The first is Facebook. We'll also talk about Twitter. I think we're going to skip Google Plus for time, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and then maybe talk a little bit about the next big things. Next. There's a couple easy ways to make a wrong splash in Facebook. The first is the forgetting that social media is exactly that. It's social. It's supposed to be a dialogue. If your Facebook page becomes, because your staff loves you, right? Hopefully, if they don't, then they shouldn't be your staff. And I absolutely love my governor. I think he's a brilliant guy. He's got great values, and I'll tell you, I would not come in to work these kind of hours for anybody but him, because I'm a huge fan. And so my natural inclination as senior staff is to just say great things about him all the time, including on Facebook. That's an easy way to make sure nobody bothers to read your Facebook page. It just can't be all about you. It also can't be, bullet 2, another vehicle for sending out your press releases. We've all got our email listservs. And again, it's really tempting to say, I put something out in the news, I want to put it out on Facebook because you need to see it because I said it, and as a staffer, isn't it great that he did? The next obstacle you see sometimes are people, once they've got all of these friends, using their friend list to start inviting them to various events. Far more than other forms of media, if you send somebody an invite over Facebook that says, hey, I'm inviting you to this event or that event or this event, you can keep really quickly. Bullet 4, allow random tagging. This is the, oh my God, I didn't realize anybody took those pictures, made them digital, and put them up on the internet. I thought that I was lucky enough to graduate college without anybody having digital cameras. How the heck did I get tagged in this picture? There's a way on Facebook to say, before anybody can tag you, which means say, hey, this is Representative Smith, you actually have to agree for that tag to count. So this is the way to stop the pictures in college from turning up on your Facebook page. Hey, if anybody else is still, I don't know, it sounds like they're at a concert or something, you can maybe mute your phone. I'm just having trouble getting through. Next piece is squelching disagreements too early. Facebook can be a really combative place. I mean, worse than your legislature because people sometimes have anonymous handles. And so you'll post something really positive. We did a video, for example, about domestic violence and how we're pulling together to try and solve this problem here in Delaware. And people just started yelling at each other totally off topic. And so the initial reaction is, oh my God, we need to stop all this, shut it down, wipe it off the board. But the thing about Facebook is the more disagreement, the more dialogue, and the more debate happens on your comment section, the more people actually see it, right? People have hundreds of friends these days, and if you've got a post that's got a disagreement going back and forth, and there's 50, 60, 70 comments, that's going to jump to the top of people's feed when they log on to see it. So as much as you want to say, let's not let anybody say anything bad on our feed, it's actually going to be pretty encouraging. That being said, make sure that when you launch your page, you have an acceptable use policy. So no profanity, anything that sounds vaguely racist will be immediately stricken, no personal attacks against other users. And make sure that it's really clear, because one of the ways that you do get in trouble is if you strike somebody's phrase off your Facebook page. One of the things people immediately say is, why are they so afraid of me? What are they afraid of? Why are they afraid? And it becomes a story on its own. But if there's a clear line on the acceptable use policy, then you simply have to say, staff can say, look, they just violated the policy, so they're off. They can disagree, but they can do it in a respectful way. Last piece, don't think anything is actually private. A couple of us have tried to make that line between having a personal account and an elected official account, especially in states our size. People just find those accounts and decide to friend you anyway. Next slide. So that's the negatives. But the Facebook can be an enormous positive, especially if you follow some of these tips. Use it as a way to highlight others. We get so many more views and so many more likes and so many more tags when we're not talking about the governor, but when we're in fact talking about other people in Delaware. A college student that did something innovative to help their neighbors, a nonprofit that's stepping up to help. The Multiple Sclerosis Society came in yesterday to talk about their cause, and we talked about them. The more you talk about others, the more people come to you to hear what you have to say. So spend time. It's so counterintuitive, right? When you're an elected official or you're a staff, you want to make sure people are hearing what you have to say because you're the one whose neck is on the line, right? But actually talking about others delivers far more eyeballs and far more discussion. Part two is tag helpfully. So tagging on Facebook is when you've got a picture and you click on somebody's face and then you say who that person is. People get an enormous thrill out of if they go and get a picture with you, seeing that you've decided to know their name and to tag them on that. It also means that if you tag somebody who's the head of the Freemasons in Wilmington, or you tag somebody who's the head of the Grange, every single one of their friends gets a chance to see that you, the elected official, you, the governor, you, the state representative, you, the state senator, thought enough about that person to tag them in the picture. Same thing with hitting the like button. If you've got 800, 900 friends, 1,000 friends, with 5,000 or 6,000, through their feeds, you'll see different things going on in your community. It takes 1/10 of 1 second to click the like button on something clever or funny that they said, and it means not only do their friends see that you were paying attention, it's an enormous boost for them to think you're actually listening. When you have your Facebook page, don't just do text. Put in a healthy mix of photos, text, and video. If you don't vary the format, you tend to lose viewers. Next piece, in addition to liking freely, feel free to weigh in on other people's comment threads. If somebody's talking about, hey, I just got a new job, it's actually fun to say congratulations to them on their feed. Right? It really shows that you're connected to them and builds this sort of social glue that holds us all together. Same piece with share and share alike. If you see something in your feed that you think other people would want to see, just click the share button. And not only do all of your viewers get a chance to see that you like the Girl Scouts, you like the Boy Scouts, you like Little League Baseball, everybody that is on those pages gets a chance to know that you've cared enough to do it. And the last piece is track your metrics. Facebook, when you have your own page, not your own profile, but an elected official page or a fan page, they'll give you insight into how many people log on to your page, how many people quote, like you, how many people interact with your page. And you'll be able to tell over time in your own district or your own city what generates more traffic. Next. So that is the bare bones on Facebook. Because Twitter is limited to 140 characters, I put this onto one page. For those of you that don't tweet much, every Twitter address starts with @ and then the name. So in this case, just a joke, like @you, got something to. I really would encourage it not to do the sort of to or the U for the letter U for YOU, but most Twitter speak happens this way. And then that hashtag next to the word say. Twitter runs on these things called hashtags, and hashtags are how in a sea of 100+ million people doing thousands of tweets, every couple days, each person in some cases. We've got people in Delaware that are on their 50,000, 60,000 tweet. Hashtags are ways you can check what people are talking about across the Twitterverse. So common mistakes by elected officials is they are delivering a big speech or a big press release, and they think Twitter says only talk in 140-character chunks. So let me just take the press release and break it up into 140-character chunks and put it out that way. Easy way to make sure people get really angry at you. Two is people think I'm going to use Twitter to get my message out instead of hear from other people. But the more people you follow, which means I want to make sure that I see what they're saying, the more people do that for you. I mentioned hashtags. If you're talking about jobs, put hashtag jobs. If you're talking about an event that you're going to, our Chamber of Commerce dinner was a couple weeks ago, and so our Chamber of Commerce dinner created its own hashtag. I think it was #DSC din or something for Delaware State Chamber dinner. And what that meant was everybody that was in the dinner that was tweeting, and it was a lot. I mean, you think at a chamber dinner, people would spend more time listening to speakers, but there were a lot of people with their smartphones. Anybody that wanted to acknowledge that they were at the dinner or wanted to see what was happening at the dinner would do their piece plus the hashtag DSC dinner. It's just great for State of the States and debates that are going on the floor, or if you're watching the President's State of the Union or a Governor's State of the Union, creating a hashtag so that anybody that wants to know what's going on at that event follows that hash STOS or something. Lots of electeds get caught having their staff tweet but pretending it was the elected that was doing it. So this is everything from there have been governors that have been on an airplane and clearly can't be tweeting, to a state rep that's in the middle of having a conversation with a reporter when a Twitter piece pops up and the reporter says, wait, how could that have been you? You're talking to me right now. I didn't see you touch anything with your phone. One of the things we do in the governor's office, Felicia is the social media genius that worked here. If she tweets something, she puts star F next to her name. If I do it, I put star B. And if the governor does it, we don't put any star at all. And that way, we don't run into that problem. Angry tweet is more for your college students, also known as sort of drunk tweet. If you're upset about something, put the phone down and walk away. Twitter spreads like crazy and lives forever. And the last piece, a surprising number of elected officials click on links in there that get sent to them. There's a virus that comes out. Somebody will send you a message on Twitter, and it'll say, oh my God, you can't believe what they're saying about you on this blog. Click here to read it. People click on it, and it actually infects their Twitter account, and then it sends out that same message. Oh my God, you can't imagine what people are saying about you. Click here, to everybody. And that's a great way to sort of lose the respect of your colleagues and lose some followers. So again, it's sort of the negative, but the positive is do have fun with it, especially when it comes to competition. I remember Cory Booker, who's the mayor of Newark, has got well over 1 million followers, but that really blew up after he decided to pick a fight with Conan O'Brien. And he and Conan O'Brien were actually going back and forth with each other on Twitter, sort of picking on each other and having a throwdown about Newark. It just generates a ton of people. If you have different legislators, they may have some followers, you've got some followers, you've got some overlap. I mean, it's easy to sort of call them out over Twitter and say, I challenge your district. My high school is in the state championship, and we're going to beat you next week, and have the two of you kind of go back and forth, and then all your followers and all their followers see it together. RT is retweet and Twitter speak. That just means somebody else did something that's clever. You hit the button, and it sends it out to all of your followers, too. Great way to show your constituents you're listening. Mixed policy and personal. People don't want to do social media with elected officials just to find out about policies. They want to find out your sort of social background and your personal thoughts. So you can draw a line in terms of how much you want to share. But if you're out celebrating your anniversary, or you're out there at a flea market, looking for like some used bench or something to put in your garage when you go to fix your car, those are the sort of things people actually read more, retweet more, and spend more time on. Now, while I said don't break speeches up into 140-character chunks, you will have big speeches or big events that will have concrete phrases that you want to have said. So instead of having your staff sit there and try and type it out in real time with their thumbs on their phone while you're saying it, there is some value in actually having those in a doc, or having a thing like Hootsuite ready to go so that those come in real time. And the last two pieces on Twitter, just like every other thing, highlight others and include photos. If you get a picture of somebody and you put it up on Twitter right away, they're going to send it to everybody they know immediately. Next one. When we get to questions, we can hear from some of you, but the biggest change in the last 10 years is the preponderance of easy-to-use smartphones capturing video of elected officials. Everywhere you go now, it's entirely possible that somebody's taking a video of you and can share that immediately on YouTube. People get abrasive and abusive sometimes. They'll confront you. They'll get in your face with the camera. And the goal is to try and goad you into losing your control, because that 2 or 3 seconds, those 5 or 6 seconds that you do, are the 5 or 6 seconds that go everywhere. So as hard as it is, breathe and walk away. Never forget that you're being recorded. And then from the other side of that, if you make a video, again, I love my boss, and I think it's brilliant. I also think that anybody who makes a video sometimes thinks that people are going to watch it. They aren't necessarily. So do make a channel for yourself. do add a mix of both short and long clips, and then do put up longer speeches as well, because some people do watch them. Finally, do tag them effectively. So in your Facebook, in your YouTube, you can say what the video is about, and if you go through and say this is about jobs and sports and kids, they'll get a chance to find that when they search for it. All right, next slide. The last piece, last social media piece to talk about is one that I think electeds underuse, and that's LinkedIn. It doesn't work as well for governors, but it works incredibly well for state legislators. LinkedIn, for those of you that don't know, is really the job searching social media site. It's where you put your resume up and you explain what your skill set is. But people have really profound discussions about problems they're having at work, or problems they're trying to solve, or help they're trying to find in these LinkedIn groups. And it's thoughtful, it's deliberative, and it's a great place for you to sign up and show that you are both thinking about the district and have answers for them. It's also a great way to find out who you know. We had a refinery close here in Delaware, and the first thing the governor did was call everybody he knew to figure out who may have a refinery that we could open. One of the things we did was we went onto our LinkedIn profiles and tried to figure out who within our own connections, I've got like 1,600, were involved in that industry that might know something about refineries, may own one, they will be in the market to buy one, and might want to get to work. Don't randomly connect people to you that aren't linked into you. Don't link every one of your other profiles to your LinkedIn profile, because it is sort of business-minded, and don't treat it short shrift, but do set up an account. Next one. So do join groups, do look for ways to contribute thoughtful answers. Again, highlight others that have interesting ideas. If somebody says, I've got this ERP problem and I don't know the answer, totally great for you to say, actually, in my district, I've got a great small business, and they've got an answer for this. You might want to talk to them. Here's Jim, and I'm bringing him into the conversation. But also ask questions. If you're in the Rotary Club group in Springfield, Illinois, you can actually say, has anyone out there ever had experience trying to solve this particular problem? And people will gladly decide to weigh in with their thoughts in a kind of thoughtful way. So those are next. Those are the sort of big social media pieces that'll take up most of your time. There's so many other pieces out there. There's, Dig, which is a way for your constituents or your friends or even you to click that you like an article, and that'll send it up so more people can see it. Tumblr, which is a sort of form of photo blog. Flickr is where you put up some of your pictures. Reddit, StumbleUpon, or other ways to find great content. On an earlier slide, we mentioned Pinterest, which is something that people are adopting early. Pinterest has the benefit of a verb. It seems like most of the great social media that work have a verb attached to it. So Facebook was poking, LinkedIn was linking, Twitter is tweeting, and Pinterest is pinning. It's easy, it's intuitive, it's put a picture up and put a pin on it, and everybody will get a chance to see it. But nobody's exactly sure the copyright issues on it still, so make sure that you yourself aren't putting up copyrighted material, and in your terms of use, you explain that nobody else should be doing that either. That's my piece of it. Now our social media expert at the CSG, Nathan, is going to talk a little bit about keeping your privacy settings up and staying out of trouble. Nathan?
Actually, Brian, real quick, before we throw it over to Nathan, I had a question, and you can very quickly go over Google Plus.
Since I can't hear you, I'm actually wondering if anybody else had a chance to hear me. So
we can hear you. Let me try and speak a little louder.
See, now it's all gone. So whatever that noise was, you just made it stop.
It's my lovely voice. We've had a request. Could you, real quick, before we throw it to Nathan, get a couple of brief details on Google Plus?
Okay. So the Google Plus is we'd even written slides for it and then cut it out last night because we weren't sure about time. So Google Plus is Google's attempt to take on Facebook to create a social media platform. The way that Google Plus works, what's unique about it is they have these circles or hangouts so that instead of being worried that everybody can see all of your Facebook posts at one time, or that everybody can see all your tweets. I mean, you can do it in Facebook so that only a certain number of people see what you're up to. But Google works on this idea of sort of concentric circles, that these are my work friends, these are my life friends, these are my constituent friends, these are my Rotary Club friends, and you can have specific conversations with them based on their interest. It operates like Facebook, and then instead of a like, you hit +1 for something. So if you like it, you give it clout by clicking on it, and that gives it a +1. And the higher a number is, the more people are likely to see it or spend time with it. The adoption is not as broad as some of the other pieces, and it is another thing that you'd have to monitor. What I like about Google Plus is how well it integrates into the rest of Google. So I mean, Google is really it's less a search company and more a data company. And a friend of mine that used to work here in Delaware is actually the head of ad sales for Google now. And if anybody has the desire to take a deeper dive into how Google ad analytics work or ads on Google Plus, happy to connect you. But Google is so good at giving you insight into who's looking at you, what they've been looking at before, and what their interests are. And it also integrates nicely with search results. So it is another platform. It's another thing to add to your workload. The adoption not as widespread as it was, but it does give you the ability to create these kind of circles of people that are individualized interests, and it also gives you the heft of Google's data analysis behind it. The same problems that you'd make in Facebook or Twitter are the same problems you'd find on Google Plus, which is just don't make your Plus all about you and spend more time talking about other people's successes and not your own. Good?
Okay, thank you. And then Nathan, we'll go ahead and let you take off with your section now.
Okay, thanks, Krista. First, I want to thank Brian for doing such an outstanding job of sharing his insights on communication strategies for online and social media. He's worked with CSG's Leadership Center before, and we are incredibly fortunate to have him with us today on this webinar. So thanks again, Brian, for sharing your thoughts. Just as a quick bit of background on me, I provide small group and one-on-one social media training with state leaders at CSG's national conferences. And today I want to do something relatively simple. I wanted to take the opportunity today on this webinar to share with you the top 3 tips that have really resonated with the participants in our social media boot camp. The first topic I'm going to cover is basic privacy settings on Facebook. Second, I'm going to talk about what Facebook apps can post about you and how that could be potentially embarrassing. And third, I'm going to tell you how to set up Google Alerts to monitor what is said about you and the issues you care about on the web. So the first tip, at first glance, is pretty obvious. When you use Facebook, it's important to proactively manage your privacy settings. It's important to do this not simply so you can control what you share and who can see it, because even if you change none of the default settings, you will at least get a bird's eye view of information that can be published and an understanding of who can see it. So to begin managing your privacy when using Facebook, first click on the Settings tab located in the top right of the page under a small arrow to the right of the home link, as you can see in the image on your screen. Clicking on the arrow will bring down a menu that includes privacy settings. Click that link to manage your privacy. If you're new to Facebook, this is probably one of the first things you should do. Next slide, please. After you click on that link, you'll see the page displayed now. Here you can adjust several aspects of privacy on Facebook, such as how many people can search for you and find you, how information is displayed on your timeline, if there are certain people you want to block, etc. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time today probably to go into detail about each of those settings, but it's important to go through them on your own time so you understand what kind of information it is that you could be potentially sharing. Next slide, please. So that was all pretty obvious, as I mentioned, but the second part of managing your privacy is a little less intuitive. While the Privacy Settings tab is, like I said, an obvious place to start, privacy controls related to your biographical and contact information are a little bit harder to find. Tweaking this information will control the visibility of details such as where you live, your contact information, where you have worked, your birthday, etc. To access the visibility of these settings, first go to your timeline profile homepage by clicking on your name near the top right in the blue bar on Facebook, somewhere close to where the arrow was before. Now this will take you to your timeline profile. And when you get there, you can click on the Update Info box, as you can see on the screen. Next slide, please. Now, after you do that, you'll be taken to a page that includes your profile information. Here, you will be able to select the pull-down menu or the pull-down arrow next to each biographical item to select its level of visibility, as seen in the image. In the example on your screen, I've allowed my friends to see that I attended the University of Kentucky. This is important to do because there's a box in this section that's also labeled Contact Info, where, for example, you could add your cell phone number. Now, you may not want the general public or even all your friends to have access to your cell phone number. So adjusting these settings here will help you get a handle on who can view that information. Again, what I've gone over here isn't an exhaustive discussion of Facebook privacy, but these are sort of the first basic steps you'll want to take in getting a handle on what information you share. Next slide. The second thing I want to cover today is that apps can post as you, even if you don't proactively give them permission to do so each time. It's something called frictionless sharing, which means that some apps will automatically post information about your activity on Facebook. All you have to do is agree to let the app do this one time. You can see on your screen that I installed an app called SlideShare. In order to use this app, I had to agree to let it post as me. This means that if I view a slideshow on the SlideShare website, technically this app could publish to my friends what slideshow I'm viewing. You can see that that point circle on the screen. Next slide, please. Now, this gets potentially embarrassing when you install apps that automatically post what you read online. Now, I took the screen capture from my iPhone just 2 days ago. In my news feed, I'm able to view what articles my friends have been reading. As you can see, it looks like 5 of my friends read about how a review of the Olive Garden became an internet sensation. And I also saw that they read 9 warning signs you're about to get audited. This could be especially problematic if you are, for example, a state senator or a representative, and you're reading something online that you wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable broadcasting to all of your friends or the public. Next slide, please. On the next page is an example of one such app, which is the Washington Post Social Reader. If you install this app and read an article on the Washington Post, again through this app, it will automatically publish what you read to your friends. Now you can see this setting again in the screen capture on your computer now. The Washington Post Social Reader isn't the only app that does this, though. What I really want to get at here is please be aware that this posting capability is available in a lot of apps on Facebook. It's one of the things that has really alarmed participants in CSG's social media boot camps. Next slide, please. Now, last but not least, I want to talk about Google Alerts. Google Alerts is a service that Google provides. Basically what it does is it monitors the web, and anytime a term or terms that you specify is mentioned on the web, Google Alerts will send you an email about it. So if you want to know anytime your name is mentioned on the web, you can add your name as a search term in Google Alerts, and you'll be notified. In the example on your screen, you can see that CSG just got an email alerting us that the Council of State Governments was mentioned on LexisNexis. This email includes the context of the terms used and a link to it. If you want to set this up for yourself, just go to www.google.com/alert. When you do that, you'll see the following page. Next slide. So when you visit the page, you can input your search terms, what type of sites you want Google to monitor, and some settings about the volume of email you want to receive. After inputting this information, just click Create Alert, and you'll start receiving these notifications. Next slide, please. Now, if you want to have multiple Google Alert search terms, such as your name and maybe an issue you care about, like healthcare, you may want to create a Google account. You can do this by going to google.com/account. After you create an account, you'll be able to better manage your Google Alerts, especially if you have several of them, as you can see in the attached image, as you can see on the image on your screen. So in the interest of time, I'll go ahead and stop here. I just want to cover these big 3 tips. And as a reminder, they are 1, manage your Facebook privacy settings, 2, be aware of what apps can publish about you, and 3, set up Google Alerts to know what's said about you on the web. I also want to say that we'll have more information like this in the future. So to stay posted, please visit CSG's National Leadership Center at csg.org/leadership center.
Great. Thank you, Nathan. All right. At this time, we've got a few minutes left, and we can take some questions from folks. You can enter those in the chat section there on your GoToMeeting little console. And in the meantime, we've got a couple of questions that have come in. First, Brian, we've got a question from a listener who would like to know, when you're engaging on Facebook and some of those, if you get a comment or a conversation going that I guess maybe you might be going in the direction that you're not comfortable with, is there a point in time where it's appropriate to delete a comment? When and when don't you want to respond to those sort of comments? Can you kind of give us your feeling on that kind of situation?
That's a great question. So, one, try and make sure that you've got an acceptable use policy beforehand, because if you take somebody's comment down, the first reaction is going to be another post by them where they then say, why are you afraid of me? Why are you hiding from me? How come you won't let me be heard? I thought this was America, right? And so you want to be able to sort of limit that by saying, look, you violated our policy of profanity, or you violated our policy on that. We will have people weigh in sometimes if it's totally off topic. We'll explain to somebody, hey, please give us your email address, or please give us your phone number, and we'll have somebody call you to talk about this. This topic is really about domestic violence, right? So the hijacking happens all the time. I mentioned domestic violence. We had our Attorney General is Joe Biden's son, Beau Biden, great guy, and he and Governor Markell did a domestic violence event where Beau, the AG, talked about this mom who literally beaten to death in front of her children by somebody that had been abusive to her in the past. Heartbreaking. And so many people had said, we put this video up as a means to remind people to be vigilant, and to raise awareness of it, and to take these sort of things seriously. And one of the first things that somebody posted was, yes, domestic violence is a tragedy, but you know what else is a tragedy? Fracking in the Delaware River Basin, which was followed by like 2 or 3 more people having that same idea. They decided to hijack our thread about domestic violence to talk about a different issue. And so we very politely explained that, look, here is the governor's thoughts on that. Give us your email address, or we can have this discussion somewhere else, but really let's just focus on that. Sometimes your constituents will come to your rescue, so they will ride in and have the debate on your behalf, which is even better. I mean, there were some people that were truly horrified by that approach. Hope that's helpful.
Great. Real quick, I know I accidentally jumped ahead to the questions, and you had one more story you wanted to share with us to kind of conclude your statement. So if you want to go ahead and do that while we continue to collect questions, Brian, I'll let you go ahead and share the Rachel story with us. Okay.
So look, so much of social media is daunting and scary and full of people that will want to yell at you and say terrible things, right? I mean, you read the comments on the bottom of newspapers articles sometimes and just shake your head, but it could be a force for enormous good. I mean, really make a huge difference in people's lives. We got through several channels, including social media, news about an 8-year-old girl named Rachel Gambrell, and I'm going to try hard not to choke up here, but Rachel had terminal brain cancer, and her goal in life was to grow up to someday be governor. And she didn't know that she had terminal cancer. Her mom did. But the mom and her friends had this idea, could Rachel get a chance to meet the governor? And Felicia, who I mentioned that works with us, and some others had this idea, what if we got a chance to make Rachel the actual governor for the day? So we actually brought Rachel in, and you can see on the right-hand side there, the Governor Markell actually proclaimed Rachel governor of Delaware for the day. And our cabinet came in, and our Secretary of Education actually briefed her about the status of schools, and our kids department secretary talked about how kids were doing in Delaware. And she got a chance to sit in the governor's desk, and she actually made a proclamation of her own as governor that she signed. And it was that Delaware would have a day full of rainbows and sunshine and furry pets that we could hug. And it's a beautiful moment. We put it up on Facebook to sort of raise awareness for Rachel's charity. And we thought it would end there. Next slide. Some bloggers and some people, Rodney Jordan, who's a small business owner in Delaware who's really good at connecting people, he actually saw it on my personal Facebook page. I had joked that, hey, tomorrow Delaware gets a brand new governor, and his interest was, I wonder what that's about. You know, is Jack leaving to go, work for the Obama administration or something? So he started following it and saw this piece about Rachel. and it just touched him so much. Next slide. That he decided to challenge people to give Rachel as many rainbows as Delaware could possibly create for her on her day. And so Rodney and another small business, Epic Marketing, created this rainbow with a heart and the word Rachel on it, and a hashtag on Twitter. NetDE is our sort of online community. And Rodney and others turned out to be hundreds and hundreds of people, all changed their LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Foursquare, Google Plus pictures to this rainbow for Rachel that day. And if anybody knows Foursquare, you click on where you are and you check in. And everybody was actually literally checking into to rainbows the entire day. And so Rachel's webpage, where she's raising money for cancer, next slide, got thousands of people that became Rachel's friend, thousands of people that were following her, started to donate to her family. She got to go to Disney World. She got furniture in her house. People painted the home for them. I mean, just the outpouring of people she'd never known, that she would never know, that would never know her, all because of some pictures on Facebook and Rachel's chance to be governor. I mean, it really, really cemented this Delaware online community. I mean, we could disagree a lot, and we can have some pretty hefty fights sometimes, but at the end of the day, we all are Delawareans, and we are all in this together. I like to say, and the governor says, that we are a state of neighbors, and through things like Rachel, I think we all realized how much we have in common. Unfortunately, Rachel passed away on Monday, but I know how much it meant to her to get a chance to be governor, and how much it meant to her to see thousands of people across her state try and give her rainbows that day. So this can really make a big difference in people's lives. And I'll take more questions.
What an amazing story, Brian. I wish I had a better segue out of such a touching story into
LinkedIn, right? Yeah.
But unfortunately, I don't think well on my feet, so I'm just going to go to the questions. We do have one from Ohio. They would like you to please share an example of an acceptable standard. Please share a standard acceptable use policy, and then where do you post it on your Facebook page, and how do you make that, everybody aware of it?
Sure. Actually, probably easier if I email it to you, Krista, and we can email it out to some others.
That's fine. If you want to do that, then that's how we'll do it. We'll share that. This is going to be the whole webinar, and some other supporting materials will be on our website, so we'll add that to those materials as well.
Yeah, I mean, on our state Facebook page at Delaware, on the About, it says something like, welcome to the official state of Delaware page. Feel free to comment on the wall, but follow our guidelines, and then creates a link to the guidelines where it talks about sort of personal attacks and profanity and things like that, and they need to be respectful. But there's states have kind of standardized around them, and I'm guessing that your DTI, Department of Technology equivalent, probably has one written up for the state page, and you can adopt the state page one as your own. But in the About field, you can give a brief piece to it and then send a link where people can read it in its entirety. Next question.
We actually don't have any more questions, so I think you did such a great job during your presentation that you've answered everybody's questions. So
wow.
We appreciate it. You did, both of you and Nathan did a great job, and again, we'll put all this up for everybody who was online with us today, and for anybody they want to share it with, it'll be on our website at CSG.org. And again, thank you, Nathan, and thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.